Assalamu alaikum, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Today we are going to start our second tutorial, which is going to be about variable scopes, JavaScript, type conversions, and browser object model. We will first see what are variable scopes in JavaScript. There are mainly five type of scopes in JavaScript. We'll first see what is block scope. To understand block scope, one should be familiar with the concept of blocks in JavaScript. A block is nothing but something enclosed inside curly braces. It can be a loop, it can be a function, or a if else condition. All of them are enclosed inside the curly braces. So we can call them to be lying under the domain of blocks. To declare the block scope variables, let and constant are used. Let's see now what is global scope. Any variable declared outside of any function, any variable that is declared outside of any function, lexical or block scope or module scope will have a global scope, and any variable which is declared inside a global scope can be accessed anywhere in the application. So var keyword is used to declare global scope variables. Like we see, let and constant were used to declare block scope variables. Let's see now what is function scope. Function scope is, as the name suggests, any variable that is declared inside the body of a function will be accessible only within that space of function, but not outside the vicinity of the function, is considered to be function scope. Similarly, let and constant can also be used to declare variables of type function scope. Lastly, we will see lastly but not second lastly we will see what is lexical scope. We have inner and outer function concept in JavaScript. Lexical scope allows us allows basically our function inside a function to basically assess the scope of its outside function in which it is declared. So lexical scope is the ability of inner function to use the scope of outside or the scope in which of the function in which it is declared. So that is what lexical scope is all about. Now, lastly, we will see what is module scope. Module scope is anything that was introduced in, I think, ES6 version of JavaScript, that any function in that every file you create, if you enable the module system, becomes a module, and any variable declared inside that module will not be accessible in the other parts of the application, only and only if you export that variable using the export functionality of JavaScript. That is what module scope is. Now we will see what is scope chain in JavaScript. Scope chain is nothing but the functionality or the working of JavaScript to find a variable when it is referenced in a code, in a chunk of code, in to the innermost scope, innermost scope to the outermost scope until it finds the variable. If it didn't find the variable, it will throw a reference here. That is actually the concept of formation of chain. That JavaScript will start finding the variable in the innermost scope and will continue to find it until it reaches and find it's in the outer scope. If it didn't find in the outer scope, it will throw a reference error. That is the mainly concept of all scopes in JavaScript, and we also we also saw what is a scope chain in JavaScript. Okay, so we are starting a working example to see how these scopes thing work in JavaScript. We have a basic HTML file with scopes file, JavaScript file externally loaded as a module. Let's see how global variables and function scope or module scope variable work. We have defined a global variable with the name global var using the var keyword. I am assessing it in my function 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 which is itself a function scope function which is itself in the domain of function or module function or block scope. Let's see if my global variable is accessible inside this function or not. You can see it has printed console that I am global. The global variable is accessible. Now let's see if my function or block scope variable is accessible outside the function body. No, it is not accessible. It is throwing a reference error that this variable is not defined. Let's comment this and see if this thing is accessible inside or not. It will be accessible for sure that the inner variable and global variable both are accessible within the function body. So we are done with these two examples. Now let's comment out this and see how lexical scope works. Basically, the lexical scope is the ability of an inner function to have access to the outer function. I have an inner function and an outer function. Now we are printing side by side that how these values are printed inside the function body. Let's see. Oh, let me say first. It has printed that I am global, I am outer, I am inner. This thing has printed that I am global, means the inner function has access to global variables. And outer variable has printed that I am outer. It means this function can also access the scope which is of its outer function in which it is defined. It has also access for obviously to its own function, and to the outer function, it has also says to the global variables defined in the file. Now we are done with function and global function scope, function scope, global scope, and block scope. Now let's see how module scope works. Let's uncomment this. Let's move towards this file that is another file which has a variable and a function, and we are exporting this variable and function into our this scope file. Let's import this, and let's print out this, and call this function imported from our module script file, and comment out this for now. Now we will see the behavior of our file, that I am module scope and module function. We have successfully imported this module variable and module function from our this file. What does it mean? That in order to use functions or variables globally throughout your application, you need to import them like this and export like this, so that they will be accessible inside your script of your choice. We have now successfully looked at what the major scopes in JavaScript were. Now we will see the uh, working of this, how scope chaining works. Let's see that this function is basically also showing us how scope chaining works in JavaScript. This global variable is looked after inside the function body, and if it doesn't exist there, if it is looked out in this the outer function body, and if it is doesn't exist there, then it is looked in the file or global variables. And if I comment out this, then this script will throw a reference error. Let's see that uncaught reference global variable is not defined. What we discussed, and we have proved it, that the scope chaining works from the the innermost scope and move toward the global most scope. And if it doesn't find there, it will throw a reference error. We have, if we comment out this line, it will throw a reference error. If we uncomment this, the script will work fine, and will have printed all of our variables. Let's conclude the working of all of this scope in JavaScript.
Okay, guys, we are now starting the other topic we have to in this tutorial, that is browser object model. Browser object model basically provides an interface through which JavaScript can talk to the browser. By talking, we mean that we are thinking of interactivity between the browser and the JavaScript code. There are multiple browsers available today. All of them have almost same methods and functions which are available across browsers. A famous and widely used function is window function. Window function is basically used for a variety of reasons. It is globally available in the JavaScript and can be used to get screen width or height, and can be used to locate the URL of the tab opened in the browser. Width and height, and similarly we also see use cases of window alerts we can use to display pop-up messages in the browser. That is also sort of interactivity which is brought to us or brought to this world, brought to this world of interactivity by browsers through BOM. BOM is basically a browser object model that is an interface that allows communication between browser and JavaScript. Lastly, we also see window global object has a meth as a uh, as a function called location window.location, which can be used to find the URL of the tab opened. Now we will cover a working code example to see how window function can be used. Okay guys, this is a browser object model simple example in which we will see how to create an alert box and to how to use location and screen functionality of window global object. Let's see first how this alert box works. It basically works around the idea of showing some alert message in the browser by typing window.alert, and the message will come here inside this round brackets, this is going to be the message that you want to display in the alert box. Let's see how it behaves. Let me reload this page. You can see that my alert box has appeared in. When I press OK, then my heading will appear. The point is the script tags start running alongside the HTML. So as you can see, the window alert box has appeared first, then this heading, because it ran first and we saw the alert box first and then the heading. Let's try this window.location.href thing to show what is actually printed when we write this in console log. Let's reload this and inspect the page to see the console log. That is actually my location, my local directory location, that is actually showing the path, the URL which is displayed right here. So as we said that we can import, we can write, we can have the URL of the tab open by using this function console window.location.href. Let's try this also and this also, and how to have width and length of the screen or tab opened. Let's reload this and we can see that it is 180 1280 width and the height is undefined. We can sort out why is it uh, why is it as we have mistakenly wrote length, we have to write height here, so it will print correctly. You can see that it has printed 1280 as the width and 800 as the height. It is an actual manifestation of how JavaScript interactivity with BOM browser object model works. Let's conclude it here and we will next see type conversions in JavaScript.
Okay, since discussed with our last topic in this video, that is type conversions in JavaScript. These are basically conversion of values into uh, the types we explicitly define, or these can be automatic conversions also. For automatic conversion, we consider the example of the alert function, that when we type alert and pass a value in it, it converts this value to type string. Any value can be placed here and it will convert it into type string. These it can be called as automatic conversion in JavaScript. Similarly, when we talk of string conversion, we just have to type str or str. I am taking it, keeping short to yes, to consume less space. You have to type the full string with extra capital to convert a value to string. String type conversions are obvious for primitive values. As we have studied earlier, what are primitive data types? And the values defined with primitive data types are called primitive values, and any value you pass in here will be converted easily to string. If we are going to convert a value to numeric, you have to follow a certain rule that if you give a undefined value, that will be considered a not a number, because anything that is actually undefined gives you back a NaN or not a number, because it's a rule in JavaScript for the conversion of undefined values to numeric values. So if you give a null value and start converting into the numeric data type, it will convert to 0. Similarly, true or false boolean will be converted to 1 and 0 accordingly. 1 and 0. And any other value beside this will any other value and a string, any other value beside there. Let me explain this, that if you give a string and the string will can be converted into the numeric data type after removing the trailing and starting white spaces, tabs, and extra spaces from both ends of the string. If any number is read from the string, then it can be only converted to the numeric data type. Otherwise, it will not. Like if you pass a value 1, 2, 3, Z, and a space like this space will be removed and a number will be read, that is 1, 2, 3, Z. It will give you a not a number error, that it is actually not a number, because the number read is 1, 2, 3, Z, not actually a number. But if you give it a number like this with empty space, white spaces in the start and at the end, it will get converted, because the both the ending and starting spaces will be removed and the number will be successfully converted into 123. That was the rule I was making you understand, that for nan it gives you undefined, and for null it will give you 0, and for any boolean values it will give you accordingly a 1 for true and a 0 for false. And for string, after removing starting and ending white spaces, it will read the number, and if it is a valid number, it will be converted accordingly. And if it is not a valid number, then it will give you a not a number error in JavaScript. For Boolean, the rule is quite simple. You give null or an empty string, a nan, not a number, and undefined. these values will convert to the false. Any other value other than these values will convert to true. Otherwise, for any other value given will result in a true value. Beside these, empty string are not a number and undefined or a not a number value. So that is what type conversions in JavaScript mean. Now we'll move forward to a working example to see how things actually work in type conversion. Okay, then let's discuss the last example related to the type conversion in JavaScript. Last thing which I missed in the theoretical portion of Boolean type conversion is when you pass a zero or null value, it also get converted to false in JavaScript. Any other value than these five values, I think, will get converted to a true. Any other value. I forgot to mention these two values in my theoretical explanation part. Let's remove this and start with this example demonstration, the type conversions to string type. Let's comment this and try the string conversion part by trying different variables which are of number boolean object types. Let's run this page and see how do they get converted. These values, the number string get converted to a number to a the number get converted to a string string type 42 type 42 which is of type string, and the boolean value is actually converted to a string which holds the value true. And for the object, we have a string which has two object strings uh, enclosed within the brackets. This whole thing is actually a string, not a array. And similarly, all the elements of array gets converted to a single string separated by commas. For instance, this is actually the representation that the number gets converted to a number of type string, the boolean gets converted to a string, and the object type is converted to this representation of object in string type conversion. And the array elements are concatenated and separated by the comma separator, and then converted to a single string with this value. Let's comment this and move forward to converting uh, things, or when I quote things, I mean to say the string. How can we convert string to a number using numeric conversions? For instance, this number, which is a string number, is a variable which holds one to three types of type string, and this holds a string which a number, a float number of type string, and a string boolean which actually has a two of type string, and a string which actually holds the value ABC. When we convert these numbers, let's see what happens. This is actually the behavior that first two strings get converted successfully and last two strings are actually not converted, and it results into a not a number error, or not a number thing which is actually not a number. As we discussed, when we pass true or any string which doesn't contain the number will get converted to a no nan or a not a number. This thing is false verified or proved here. Let's comment this and move forward to the last and the foremost section of this exam. Like when we console log and convert this string to a integer, it gets a value of 1 to 3, and we when we pass a float of which holds actually this number float in the string representation, it gets converted to 1 to 3. And when we float parse it with passing a float number 1 2 3 4 5, it remain unchanged, but the type is now converted to float. Let's comment this and try out the Boolean conversion in JavaScript. How does these conversions work? Let's reload this page and we can see there are plenty of false and true options, and we will figure out which conversion got a false value and which conversion got a true value. There are two false only here, which we got for string one and zero number of type number. As we discuss, we will get a false for the empty string and a false for zero also. As we can see, it is cross verified here. When we try converting these two values, they got us false, and all the other values, be it the empty array or object or a number or a number one, these all values got successfully converted to the true. Same is the case with this hello string. This proves the principle that when you explicitly try to convert uh, values to Boolean, there are only five values which we have discussed are converted to false, and any other value like this or these last three values, when we give values of these sort, excluding the five discussed ones, you will always get a true value. Let's conclude this tutorial as we have discussed all of the agenda of this tutorial. Please like, subscribe, and share this video who wants to learn JavaScript for free. Thank you very much.